Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the final chapter, baby. Final chapter from One Young Soul to Another talk through series. Getting it all out there, or at least enough of it to hopefully encourage you to purchase the book, because that would be very helpful to me. So this is something I talk about a lot on the channel. So chapter 9, giving up the need for control. And this, again, something I talk about a lot because we want to control everything, man. We want to control where we go. We want to control how we get there. We want to control when we get there, and we want to control who we get there with. But really the only thing we control is what we want. And we have, some control over how we get there, who we get there with, but when is the big thing. That's something that is really out of our control. And that was a big lesson I learned before writing this book, that most of the things that happen to us in life are not results necessarily of our decisions. And a lot of the time we just have to react. We have to react to the things that happen to us, and we have to do the best we can with what we're given. Because there's so many factors in this world, and there's very little that we actually have control over. We can control the way we think, as we've talked about. We can control the choices we make, but really everything else is out of our control. I mean, we can take actions, but it's usually at least a two-way street. We can't just take actions and then have things work out. A lot of times you have to wait on some other person or some organization or some group of people to accept it. And that's just the game. And I'm going to make a video about this, but the sooner you recognize that life is a game and that we just have to play it to win in our own way, the better off you're going to be. And I talked about that in this book, in this chapter. And this is going to be a fairly short video. I want to read something real quick from this chapter. In this chapter I talk about basically the phases of grief and kind of like using them to help you get past a rejection of some sort, because that's kind of what I'm talking about. Is we can't control, who accepts us and who rejects us. So for rejection, which is where a lot of people get caught up in getting in their head, as you've seen with this book, because that's what I went through, I think it's a useful way to help get past that. So this was following disorganization / despair, which I believe is the third phase of grief. So your life feels like a mess. The effects of that love stun grenade still reside. Life is blurry and your head hurts. Why even get out of bed? And again, this is relating to love, but you can relate it to any sort of rejection. I went back to my back patio, taking in nature and staring at the blue sky. I felt the need to get away. I poked at the idea of joining the Peace Corps or finding some other way to dedicate my time to helping the less fortunate. I felt like a rapid change was needed in my life to recover and feel whole again. Eventually you get over it and realize things will be okay. Your life moves on and you find things to fill that hole. Maybe you even realize there was never a hole. Now you're in reorganization and recovery. How did you get here? Well, you went through a lot of emotions, thought a lot, let time do its thing. But most importantly, you accepted the situation. You gave up control of the situation and let destiny, if you believe in that kind of thing, do its dance. The earlier you realize how little you have control over where you end up and who you end up with, the better prepared you are for a future of rejection and loss. And again, that's just a small sample of what I talk about, but there's a lot more of that, and trying to help people get through these rejections in whatever fashion they may come in and from who they may come in, and just realizing that there's so little we control, and you just have to, you got to take the punches as they come and move on as best you can. I talk a lot in this book about employment and jobs, and all the jobs I applied for last year that didn't even reach out to let me know I wasn't hired. And I'm going through not a hiring process, but I had an interview with the company, my first interview with any company, about a month ago. And there's been a couple of phases of there was like an interview phase, and then I had to give them a big article. So I'm still waiting to hear back, and hopefully within the next week of this video being posted, I will know what happened. But no matter what happens, like, I know I'm gonna be okay, and I know that if I don't get the job, then it means there's something better for me. So again, that's just like a case of rejection and how you can spin it in a positive light, and it's not always going to tear you down, and really it only tear you down if you let it. So I wanted to go ahead and read the entire conclusion because I'm not going to make a video on it, and I feel like it is a good kind of wrap up point for this whole series. So let's go ahead and do this. It'll be quick. Writing this book was an interesting way to reflect on the year 2020, one of which many will remember as terribly awful. The year people lost their job, the year people lost their loved ones, the year people lost their ability to carelessly live their lives without having to worry about getting sick. For some, like me, it was the year we lost ourselves. It was the year we faced adversity like never before and were able to make it through to the other side with some gained perspective. For me, it was a year of lessons that you have now read. And if this book did its job, it helped prevent you from making mistakes, or will help you from making them in the future. It helped you get over that crush. It helped you cut out that non-essential bullcrap. It helped you find your purpose and helped you discover your true inner self. Maybe it helped you realize that your story and path is your own, and comparison will leave you getting in your own way. Maybe it helped you to find your identity and let go of the things that are out of your control. At the very least, I hope it made you think, while at the same time made you stop thinking. I hope you took these lessons, many of which go against the grain of traditional societal standards and practices, seriously. I hope you gave the content real thought and tried applying the lessons to where you currently are in life. While this book is intended for people like me, fresh out of college young adults that don't quite know what the hell is going on yet, I think a person of any age could appreciate, or perhaps even learn from, the lessons I learned and the words I wrote. People can learn these lessons at any time. There's no specific age at which they could come into someone's life. If you loved or hated the words, disagreed with something said, have a story to share, or questions to ask, please just reach out to me on Twitter at @ByDylanHughes or email me at writtenbydylan@gmail.com. Let's learn from each other and help make the world a better place, one small step at a time. And obviously, you guys can reach out to me if you haven't read the book yet at those mediums as well. Have not received a single email. So the first person that sends me an email, I'm going to be very excited about. And I don't check it that often, but very excited to eventually have someone talk to me about my work. So yeah, this is kind of just a wrap up on the book now, and I feel like after finishing this series I can really move on to my next book, and which I've already wrote a good amount, but still a lot to do. And I intend to make it a lot more deep than this one was. Because this book printed was like 53 pages. Very short, and I'm okay with that. I didn't want to make it purposely long just because that's traditionally how books are. I wanted to tell my story, and that was the amount of words it took, the amount of pages it took to do that. So the next one, though, I think is going to have a little bit more into it. And the stuff I've written so far is kind of like an advanced version of this stuff. So if you have read this book and you maybe didn't get that much out of it, I think the next one is going to do a better job of portraying some of the lessons. And I kind of rehashed some of the same things, but obviously now I have a lot more knowledge on these topics and a lot more personal experience. So it's going to be a good book. I'm excited about it. And again, I don't know when it's going to come out. I think I'm actually going to try to reach out to publishers for this, because this first one I just self-published on Amazon, and this next one we'll see what happens. I'm not expecting a publisher to accept it, but you never know. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that. But until then, it's gonna be the same old videos talking about self-improvement and all that stuff that you love on this channel, and obviously gonna continue to write about it and publish every day, or not every day, but publish every week. So thank you for tuning in, and if you've watched all these videos, very much appreciate it. And if you haven't read the book, it'll be down below. Please check it out, and we can have a great discussion, if you please, or not, whatever you want. So thank you, and have a beautiful day.